Hello everyone, this is Alonso. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonso. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
All right, so apparently there's still an audio issue with that, with that intro video. Guess the holidays didn't work for the video. All right, well, welcome to another Cloud Career Q&A session with us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, joined with Alonso Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO. We are here to answer your cloud computing career questions, whether you want to be a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, or you're just interested in cloud computing careers, cloud computing courses, or cloud architect courses. So we're here to answer any of your questions. You know, if you want to know what is a cloud architect or what is cloud computing. Or what is AWS cloud computing? What is Azure cloud computing? What type of cloud computing should I do? Or how to start a cloud computing career? We'll answer any and all of those questions for you. If you want to know how to become a cloud architect, or you want to know more about the cloud architect job, we'll answer those questions. So make sure to ask us. I see we've got lots of questions so far. Good to know. Usually it's a slow start. Usually we have to pick people out of the crowd and make them ask their questions and volunteer them.
Right.
But yeah, so glad to see these questions here today so far. All right. Well, let me tell you about a couple of things before we get started. So as you can see above, we currently have a holiday sale going on that is 30% off of our current price point for our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. I want to point out that this is the last time that the price for our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program will be at this price. We will be having a price increase on our base price next year. Just a few days away, we will be 2023. And we will be having a price increase on our program. So make sure to take advantage of this discount while it's at its current base price, plus the 30% discount, because that will be the lowest price it is ever again. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. And let me make sure to put the link here in the chat box for everybody so that you can make sure you get it. So there we go. All right. So next thing I want to make sure everybody is aware of, we do have our free webinar tomorrow. It's our free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect job webinar. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, and it'll be the three of us again. And we'll be talking about everything from why we created our program and the way that we do our program to what type of experience actually matters, what hiring managers actually want, what cloud architects actually do, how to deal with HR and those crazy job descriptions that ask for 15 Olympic gold medals and 35 years of Kubernetes experience, even though Kubernetes has only been around for like a decade. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to become the ultimate cloud architect, what you need to know, how you can do it on your own, or how you can do it with us, either one. So make sure you register for that webinar. You can access the webinar by registering at the link that Collins has just shared in the chat box there. Also, I want to make sure that everybody is aware of our free AWS exam guide. There's also a video course to go along with that, 10-hour video course, 400-page exam guide, all created by professionals with hundreds of years of combined experience, free for you, not for sale on Amazon, like some people try to steal our content and sell an exact copy of our book on Amazon. Don't go for that one. Go for the free one straight from the source and get the best information possible on your journey to being cloud hired. So those are the things that I want to make everyone aware of. Mike or Alonso, you got anything to say before we get to these questions? You are muted, Mike. Mike, you are muted.
I'm excited to answer people's questions. I can't wait to help people get to their goals. I've been in this industry for 25 years and coached others for 2 decades. Almost every day somebody gets cloud hired, and I want to help everybody. So I'm excited to answer questions.
Same here.
So, Alonso,
no, go ahead, Chris. Yeah,
I'm just going to interrupt real fast and answer Randy's question real fast, okay. And then I'll ask Alonso for some first words. Randy says, cause of private issues, can I pay for the program and start mid next year? Yes, you can pay now, start when you're able to start, and then the clock starts ticking then when you start for the 1-year access to live classes. So you can enroll now, start then. Perfectly fine. We understand life, work, family, whatever it might be, health, we understand. So I just wanted to address that one immediately. Alonso, I'll let you give us some first words if you got any.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got to say it's been an amazing 2023.
with the Go Cloud Careers community. We have
Not even 2023 yet, Mr.
I mean,
Tom.
2022. Yeah. I'm ready to jump into it. So, but you know what? It's been so awesome watching everyone grow, everyone matriculate into the best cloud careers ever, being able to see that transition, being a part of these articles, winning our award as the best cloud computing training, bar none, in the whole world. So we have lots to talk about, lots to brag about, lots to be proud about, and we're looking forward to answering questions and moving into 2023. So let's go. I'm ready.
Mike, show us that award before we get started.
Yes.
Yeah, this was really an exciting surprise to be given the best online school of cloud computing in less than 2 years of business. And what's also even cooler, in less than 2 years of business as an organization, we've got students working in AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google, Cisco, IBM. Give me some more of them: PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture, KPMG, Deloitte, Cisco.
We could keep going forever, but we need to get to some questions here.
Okay, let's answer questions. I love answering questions.
Let's get to our first question. I'm going to start it off, and I'll let anybody add to it. So Peter Pun, I like that. Hi, Mike. What should be the good time expectation to be hired after enrolling in your program? I'm a carpenter. So the key thing about our program is that it is self-paced. There's a combination of a live component and on-demand self-paced content. So what we say and what we've seen is, for someone completely new, you as an example, I'm assuming coming from your carpentry background, we would classify you as probably new to cloud computing and tech. So for someone like you and others, we've seen around about 8 months as an average starting from scratch. So that's just a rough estimate. Again, it's just completely self-paced, so everyone's different. Somebody might be able to dedicate 30 minutes a day. Somebody might be able to dedicate 30 minutes a week. Somebody might be able to dedicate 10 hours a week. Somebody might be able to dedicate 8 hours a day. My 2 hours of study time is going to be different than Alonso's 2 hours of study time. And it's going to be different than Mike's 2 hours of study time, because I learn different than Mike and Alonso do. And Alonso and Mike learn different than I do. So it's hard for us to give one specific, concrete answer, because everybody's different. You might be working 75 hours a week and taking care of 3 children and a sick family member. You're going to have a lot of obligations and a lot of commitments and a lot of things that are going to be pulling you in 15 different directions. Or you may have the most flexible, open timetable to be able to work with. Everybody has a different amount of information that they can absorb at once as well. So we've seen people say, can I dedicate 5 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, if your brain can absorb 5 hours of new, not before seen information and retain that information, it's possible. But from our experience, most people can't absorb and retain and keep 5 hours of brand new information day after day after day after day. So just that's my open-ended real answer to that. But for new people, we see on average about 8 months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a little longer. It's hard to tell for each individual person.
Yeah.
Anybody want to add to that? I know we got quite a few more to get to after.
I think you answered that pretty well. I think the key is, we give you the flexibility that you need. I mean, if you're in our program for 11 months and you're hired while in our program in 11 months, it took you 11 months. If you're able to push everything aside and read 1,000 pages a day, not that we have that much reading in our program, but literally do it and retain it all and get through faster, great. But here's the key, Peter. All we care about is that you get hired. That's our whole focus, is that you get hired. So between 6 months and a year is probably a reasonable amount if you've never worked in tech before. You have to remember, Peter, this is not a small certification program that's 15 or 20 hours. There's over 500 hours of training in our program, and that's the reason our students earn more and get hired and are actively recruited by all these companies, because we give you exactly everything of what you need to know. Everything from helping you build your career plan to negotiating a higher salary in your interview. So it may take you 8 months on average, may take you a little longer, a little shorter, but If you do all the work, and I mean all of it, and follow the directions, you should be cloud hired and have a wonderful career.
Mhm.
All right, Alonso, I got one for you.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, follow up from Peter. How to proceed after enrolling in the program?
Okay, well, you know what? It's kind of funny, Peter, that I added something in the chat and I said one learning size does not fit all, but the constant that we ask all of our students is discipline and determination. Jump into the community, introduce yourself. If you're shy, ease in, but still introduce yourself. This is a community of people from all over the world who are focused on the same goal. So if you find someone who's near logistically to where you are, put together a study group. If they're not, and you vibe with someone who's on the other side of the world, do the same thing. But the constant is jump in, introduce yourself, take the time to understand how the process goes, and move forward from there. But do not quit. Don't give up. We understand life gets in the way, but if you can dedicate, I don't care if it's 10 minutes, review the work, check it out, but just keep going and never stop. Okay, Peter?
And let me add to that, Peter. When you sign up, you're going to receive a welcome email. That welcome email gives you all the instructions of what to do. Read it. Please read it. Then follow the curriculum. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. We've got like 1,000 steps for you. And it's exactly what you need to do to follow it in order. It took 20 years of coaching for me to develop something that's so effective. So follow the instructions exactly, and you'll never be lost.
All right, Mike, I'll let you take this one. From Peter, what are the labs like? Are they done in AWS, Azure, Google, or other cloud provider?
Now, Peter, let me explain this. Cloud architects do not touch the technology. I'm going to say it again. Cloud architects do not touch the technology. I'll say it one more time. Cloud architects do not touch the technology. So sure, we'll have you do about 25 in AWS. Everybody does them, just to say you've done it in case anybody asks you. 2, the next thing you'll do is about 25 in Azure. Again, just to say you've done them. Now, the reality is nobody cares if you've configured these things on the cloud because architects don't configure the cloud. But as an architect, you need to understand the underlying technology, how it works and why organizations use it, what features and benefits does it bring, how does this tech help this business make more money? And that's what architects do, and we'll teach you that in depth. But we will give you some real labs. See, if your whole job as an architect is to take the stuff from the network and data center and all you learn is how to configure AWS and Azure, you have zero capabilities as an architect. I mean, less than zero. And that's why unless we do training, certifications are completely meaningless. And it has nothing to do with experience. It has everything to do with design competency. So we'll tell you more about that. So the labs we have you do are like building your own cloud. While everybody else is doing a silly certification lab, you'll build the cloud. I mean, the whole cloud from scratch in our data center. You'll work with real server virtualization, build those virtual machines. You'll work with firewalls and VPN concentrators. You'll be building typical applications that are inside of the cloud. You'll work with Active Directory. Heck, you should federate your Active Directory into the cloud that you build. So you'll be doing real labs. And here's the reason we do them. First, configuring something on the cloud and not knowing how it works is a completely worthless experience for an architect. Now, building a cloud, that's how you learn how the cloud works. Now, here's what employers want, Peter Pan. And here's why our people get hired. They want someone that's got the following: the ability to do the job, someone that they can trust, someone with energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the work, someone that's willing to go above and beyond, and someone that's a team player, and someone with great communication skills. And obviously, we teach all these things. But here's the thing. Which do you think an employer is going to value? Someone that can set up an AWS S3 bucket, which I taught an 8-year-old to do in less than 5 minutes, or someone that could build AWS from scratch? Which do you think they're going to want? So who's more motivated? Someone who can design and build an entire cloud, or someone who can do this? Who's more energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work? Who's more willing to go above and beyond, and who's more competent? So we do labs that nobody else would ever do, so that you can prove that you're done things. But we give you a real portfolio to share, real systems that you design for the banking world, for example, or for the healthcare world. Sometimes we design social media providers. We do the real things that are necessary to be able to get you hired.
All right. So let's see. Let's find our next question. All right. So Funny Stuff says, what are your thoughts about doing engineering, sysadmin before becoming an architect? I am completely new.
I have to address this. So Funny Stuff. Let's say you wanted to be an airplane pilot and you decided to go to law school. And then after law school, you decided to take a course in nursing. Do you think that would make you an airplane pilot? Of course not. The cloud architect designs, presents, and sells. The sysadmin configures. So an architect designs buildings. So here's what a sysadmin is like. It's like the person that basically helps. So let's take construction. The architect, I design 1,000-foot tall hotel, 30 stories, lush waterfalls, lush gardens, a 5-star restaurant. That's what I do as an architect. I design it. The sysadmin's like the person that carries the cement bricks to the construction workers. The things are full of cement and the bricks to them. And the construction workers like the cloud engineer. So here's what's going to happen, Funny Stuff. You'll do that for 10 years and you'll know zero about architecture, and then you're going to need architect training. So if you want to be a doctor, don't go to law school. You want to be an architect, train to be an architect. This is not going to help you. Now, Funny Stuff, you know what the worst part is? The more time you focus on that as opposed to focusing on digital transformation, the less employers actually want you. When I have people with sysadmin work, I got to really scrape that off the resume because it makes them less desirable, because people will think them as a hands-on techie as opposed to a business leader. And here's the third reason you should never do this. It will cost you millions of wasted dollars. Here's why. The average cloud architect earns $199,000 a year. Good architects can earn 3, 4, 5 times that. And I can show you some examples if you desire. You've got a bunch of these job postings in there. So if you work as a sysadmin and you earn $60,000 a year versus starting your career as $199,000, and it takes you 10 years to get there, you lost $130,000 per year for 10 years. That's when you think about that, that's over $1 million. So that's one of the reasons. But if you start with a $200,000 job, instead of the slow pathway, you'll be at a $400,000 or $500,000 a year job if you actually do the right work a couple of years later. So, I mean, here's why I try to get people to their goals. Let me share an image with you, and I can share 2 if you really like. Here's an example of an $800,000, Chris, can you share that image? $800,000 job. And it's for an architect. So if you start as an architect, you're going to earn more as an architect. So don't waste your time learning somebody else's job. It does not make you good at your job at all. Now, here's another one I'll share with you. This is why I always am focused about getting people to their goals as opposed to learning other people's jobs, which doesn't get you to your jobs. If you wanted to be a pro NFL player, I would tell you not to be a marathon runner, because a running back that needs to run fast needs to run a fast 40 or a fast 100, not 26 miles and not 26.7 miles at a slow speed. So here's another one. Let's make sure I get the right one here. Okay, so this should be the principal architect. Chris, share this screen for a second. Here's a job at Google. If you've got some business acumen and some leadership skills, the base salary is $271. A bonus in a job like this is typically about 35%. That's another $100,000 a year. And then you got your stock grants and other things, which are another $50,000 a year. So you got a job that can be easily $400,000 a year, easily, for a good architect who's focused on architecture. So don't waste your time learning somebody else's job. Now, if you want to be a sysadmin because you like to be hands-on on tech, be a sysadmin. There's nothing wrong with it. But if your goal is to be an architect, don't learn somebody else's job. Master your job. Be the best at your job. Train like an Olympic gold medalist. Train like an NFL player. Focus on your career and really, really rise to the top. And that's what we do with our students. We get them to the top.
All right. So next question from Mr. Dominic. Can I become a cloud architect with just being graduated from university?
Yeah.
Alonso, did Daniel graduate from university?
Nope.
Did Daniel graduate from high school?
No either. Yeah. And
All
yet,
right.
so Mr. Dominic, you've got graduate experience. Let's unpack this, and I won't take long. We've got lots of questions. You already have a high, a degree. We've already gotten people, push them forward through the program they have no degree, they have no high school diploma, and yet through our program they were able to transform into a higher role with significant money. The last time we spoke with Daniel Bosu, He had a new career. He had a new place to live. He had new pets. He had new everything. So as a measuring stick with that, you already have a degree. So imagine, coupled with your degree, how much we can propel you forward. So to your point, Dominic, Mr. Dominic, you can do this. We got you covered. Go through the program, follow the instructions, be dedicated, be focused, and you can make this happen.
And Mr. Dominic, everybody that goes to school can get the job they want. Alonso mentioned Daniel Bosu. I'll talk about Romanik Ivan Tamba, who was a waiter as his last job and hired by AWS before he graduated college. I'll talk about Coyote. And Coyote is a wonderful guy who's now working at AWS as his first tech job. Jennifer, who was a mental health tech that's now working for JP Morgan Chase as a solution architect. Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom who's working for Microsoft as a stay-at-home architect. Mm-hmm. Jermaine, who had a cloud architect job offer from Microsoft, whose last job was a landscaper. Jeffrey West, who was doing geology stuff, geospatial imaging, totally unrelated, not a tech job, got hired by Callian as a cloud architect. I could give you example after. Oh, Delroy Batt, here's another one. He comes and visits me in Florida. He's like one of the sons I wish I always had. His last job was an EMT working on ambulances. And oh, guess what? He's now a cloud security architect as his first job. So the point is the reality is, if you're trained, if you're competent, if you're energetic, if you're enthusiastic, if you're passionate, and if you're awesome to deal with, you can get any job. Now, we have special things we do with our students. We have special branding things we do. We have special leadership things we do, special communications and sales things we do. And we do special things with our students so they don't get auto-rejected by HR. People even reach out to our students. People like Delroy Batt did have 0 certifications, and he never even applied for a job, and he had 3 offers. And he turned down 2, and he took his favorite one. Who was it? Robert Welch we recently trained, who got a phenomenal cloud security architect job. He got 20 people reaching out to him per day on LinkedIn offering positions. No certifications there. Oh, he may have had a cloud practitioner because he's great, great, great.
All right. Let's look at our next question here.
Let's go.
Let's see. All right. So Reggie asks, can you share any examples of challenges you faced in cloud projects and how you have overcome them?
Yeah, Reggie, what a great question. So here's the thing. Usually, they're not related to tech. Now, here's the things that you're going to have problems with in cloud projects. The first is the cloud does not perform as well as the network in the data center. I'm going to say it again. The cloud does not perform as well as the network in a data center. And sometimes you have to work around the weaknesses of the cloud. For example, imagine you needed really high-end disk performance. I can buy a 19 million IOPS, card that I can pop into a server. Now, the fastest IO2 or elastic block storage volume in the cloud I can get is 250,000. So, you get a lot more performance in the data center. You can create a lot greater security in the data center. And you can do things in the data center like guarantee your traffic and traffic engineer things, which you really can't do in the cloud. So a lot of the challenges I've had in the cloud is trying to make the cloud perform almost as good as the traditional network and data center. Now, we don't go to the cloud because it's necessarily cheaper. We go to the cloud because it's more agile. And that agility is really there. So Reggie, I know your background. You need to take a running back, and they're fast, they're agile, they're powerful, they're strong. Now, I could train an Olympic weightlifter, and they've got the same amount of power, maybe more power, but what they can't do is move like that and be agile. So it's the agility of the cloud that really makes the cloud so good, meaning to set up a server in the data center, if I need to order one from Dell, it could take 6 weeks. But in the cloud, I can set it up in 60 seconds. So the cloud agility is there. Now, the majority of problems you're going to see as an architect are not related to anything with regards to technology. You're going to bring in an engineer because they're super smart on something. They're going to offend somebody, and then you're going to have to rebuild the relationship. Tech doesn't always work no matter how well it's designed and planned, and you're going to be going into places constantly as a relationship manager, taking people out to dinner and drinks and joking with them and things like that. Sometimes your customers won't listen to you, and you'll tell them you must use multi-cloud. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. And then when the cloud goes down and they're not multi-cloud, they're going to blame you. So it's really about how good your sales are and your schmoozing is. I mean, this is a job of finesse. This is a job of leadership. So I would say there's that. Now, if I told you 90% of the problems I had that were technical problems in my career were the simple thing. It was always by somebody that thought he was going to get or she was going to get 10 million certifications. And what happened is when they tried to learn so many different things, the net effect is they don't know anything well enough or deep enough to do it. So the key is if you're really good and you're really focused and you know your skill, wow, you'll be great. But there's a lot of people who are still going to get certified in Kubernetes and certified in Linux and DevOps and SysOps and databases and Alexa and all this other stuff. And in the end, they have no capability to do their job because they're spread too thin. So those are the main kind of projects. It's either working around the limitations of the cloud or dealing with peoples and personalities and having difficult conversations and leadership. So Reggie, it's kind of like herding cats. When I first took my biggest, fanciest enterprise architect job a while ago, and I asked the senior, because everybody was director level or VP level, and I said, what's the hardest part of the job? And they said, you got to learn to herd cats. And I said, herding cats? I said, I love cats, but what do you need? They said, well, this security person that's the best in the world is going to forget to shower and forget to come into the office, and you got to entice them in. This other one only wants green M&Ms in the room. This other one will work like crazy, but you need to get a Macallan 18 every single night. So it's a matter of taking all the eccentric geniuses out there, putting them together, and making them succeed. So,
all right. Herding cats. And I think Mike knows a little bit about that.
A lot.
All right. So
there's an article for it as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Our next question. I love the tech aspect and getting my hands dirty, but I'm tired of putting out fires as a sysadmin. Understandable. Should I focus on architecture?
I don't know. What do you want to do? If you want to design, present, and sell, and that's going to make you happy, focus on architecture. I will tell you, if you focus on architecture as opposed to hands-on tech, you'll earn 2 to 3 times more money, but that's not enough to be happy. You got to do what you like. So, I mean, personally, I left engineering for one reason. I was tired of working 16 hours a day and doing work at 3 o'clock in the morning and being everybody's punching bag when the architects were getting paid 3 times more to take people golfing and take people to dinner. But that was me. And when I left engineering to architecture, it was the best day of my life. But I didn't start out as a sysadmin. I started out as a senior engineer. Everybody told me I needed to be a sysadmin, and I decided to start with the career I wanted, not somebody else's job. So the key is, if you'll be happy as an architect, I think it's great. But I subscribe to something that Mark Twain said, and it changed my life. And guess what? You know what my last career was? Practicing internal medicine before I moved to tech. Mark Twain said, if you make your vacation or your holiday your vocation or your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And let me tell you, I left healthcare into tech, and I've never worked a single day in my life. No matter how many 16-hour days I put in.
All right. Let's see. All right. So, hey guys, I'm currently pursuing my CCNA. Wanted to know what would be my next step studying on my own after if I wanted to be a cloud architect but can't afford the program.
Well, Quick Strike 21, I'm going to tell you what you need to do, and I'm going to also tell you that our program is about 2 to 5% of the cost of doing it on your own. So the first thing that you need to know is learn network design. And, you know, the networking is somewhere between the CCNP and CCIE level, not the configuring. The next part that you have to understand as a job, and please come to the webinar tomorrow, but I want to give you some heat until then. What we do is design, present, and sell. And to learn system design, you're going to need to take an architecture course somewhere. And most of them, like if you were to take a good TOGAF course, that's going to cost you $5,000 for the course. You can't learn this kind of stuff on Udemy. So the reason I created this course at the price that I chose is it cost me about $250,000 to develop these skills. And I didn't want anybody to have to pay for it because I grew up poor and I wanted others that didn't have anything. So you're going to need to develop your business acumen. You're going to need to learn how to sell, how to show a business that if they spend $1 billion on your tech, that they're going to get $2 or $3 billion of business value somewhere else. So you can get an MBA for that business acumen if you don't want to train with us, because you need that business acumen. You're going to need to learn how to sell, and it's not like selling a car. It's selling based upon business value. So you can get some sales training. I got a lot of sales training. Now, also, you're going to have to build the team Quick Strike 21, because as architects, here's what we don't do. We don't do anything by ourselves. Who do you think a customer would prefer? Me bringing 20 people that all have 15 years experience, or trying to pretend to be smart myself and say, hey, I'm your best? So they always want one. So you're going to need some leadership training. So I'm going to tell you, my company put me through at least $10,000 to $15,000 of leadership training. Now, next, you need some CXO relevancy training, because what Chris cares about as a COO, or Alonso cares about as a CMO, or I care about as a CEO, is different than engineers. So again, I took between $10,000 and $20,000 of CXO relevancy training. We teach all these things, obviously. Now, next, you're going to need to learn the data center. And the good news is you can learn some of the data center things from reading the documentation from VMware, reading the documentation from Dell, EMC, IBM, those kinds of things you'll be able to learn. You can learn a lot about next generation firewalls from Cisco and Palo Alto and Fortinet, Checkpoint, and those kind of organizations. You can learn a lot about databases from IBM and Oracle and the companies that make the world's greatest databases. So the tech part is easier to learn and cheaper to learn, but the business things. But why don't you do this Quick Strike 21? Come to our webinar tomorrow. And in our webinar, we'll tell you how we train people, but we'll give you the full list of everything you need to understand.
All right. So let's see. Lady T makes a good comment here. I find myself having to rewatch videos and read notes. It's the first I've had to do this, but I know it's because this is very new to me. Exactly. Everybody's got a little bit different. If I'm trying to learn this to become a cloud architect, I would have to read and reread and reread and reread. But if I'm learning business and learning marketing and economics and that type of stuff, I can do it in my sleep almost. But I'm the same way. If I'm gonna have to reread and rewatch and reread and rewatch and rewrite. Me personally, I probably have to write the notes down 15 times, and then that's when it sticks. More like 3 times probably. It's usually when it sticks.
Just like anything you love to do, repetition is key. You know, like martial arts, there are certain things that you learn, it becomes muscle memory to the point that the moment that you need that response time, that reaction time, your body's going to know what to do. It's the same thing here. Apply what you know, keep reading, Lady T, and you're going to be everything that you want to be as a successful cloud architect.
All right.
Well put.
Next one. Hello, sir. Myself, 2x AWS certified, but no practical experience. Is any program dedicated to only hands-on practicals and live projects?
Pravan, I don't think you understand.
First of all, we don't know what they want to do.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, so we definitely need to know what you want to do, because the way that we answer is going to be different for your role. But I think Mike might answer both ways. So.
I was going to say, Pravan, we don't know what jobs you want. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you this right now. None of these jobs have anything to do with hands-on experience. Everybody believes that. And here's what happens. Alonso, I'm going to interview you to be a cloud architect real quick, and I want you to give me completely stupid answers. And I want you to and the reason I picked stupid answers and I chose a negative term is as follows. Alonso, tell me what I've got 2 equal cost paths to AWS, 2 direct connections, and I would like to know how to load share across them without getting out of order packets.
Well, what you do, sir, is that you go to AWS and you use only their specific services and all their elastic cloud computing resources, and you're able to solve your problems from there.
Alonso, you know, I really like you. Come back when you have some more experience. Now, Alonso, ask me that same question.
Mike, when it comes to creating two separate routes for direct connections, what will be the solution to create consistent communications and out of order packets and making sure you don't have out of order packets?
Alonso, it's quite simple. What we have to use is we have to use BGP. And we have to, if we don't do anything to BGP, there's the chances that it can go in one service provider, out the other, and we have out of order packets. So we have two options. We could take one subnet on one link, the other subnet on another link, and an aggregate route to make sure that if either link goes down, you've got full routing. We could also change the weight on one subnet and change the weight on another subnet. And by doing that, we can make sure we don't have asymmetric routing with out of order packets. We could also change the local preference. And by changing the local preference of certain subnets, we can make sure we don't have out of order packets. But Alonso, we could also prepend certain routes, one subnet on one side and one subnet. And by prepending the routes, we can make one route look uglier for different subnets. And again, not have out of order packets. Now, we could also change the multi-exit discriminator, and I'd go on. So the point is, Pravan, if you give a good answer, you'll never hear you have no experience. But when you get a bad answer, they will always say, come back when you have more experience. Pravan, and I don't know which job, and I want you to know. Delray Bat, 0 experience, hired as a cloud architect. 0 experience, by the way. Balwender, stay-at-home mom, hired as a cloud architect. Coyote, 0 experience, hired as a cloud architect. Daniel, working as a waiter, didn't even graduate. Working selling shoes at Nordstrom, didn't even graduate high school, hired as a cloud architect. Yvonne Tampa, working as a waiter. So the point is, it's not related to this. What you have to be is competent. And competency for a cloud engineer versus competency for a cloud architect are two different things. I'm also going to tell you this, Pravan. No one cares about certifications. No one. If you had the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and you wanted to be a cloud engineer, you have 20% of what's needed to be a cloud engineer. If you wanted to be a cloud architect, you have less than 10% of what's needed. And you need different skills. So if you tell me the job, I'll tell you what you need. But if you're a cloud architect, you need business acumen, leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, design skills, and it's not taught in certification. And when we train architects, we teach them everything. We give them real practical hands-on experience in everything they need, but we also teach them how to be an architect, which is not covered in certifications. And if you'd be a cloud engineer, the certifications, again, are meaningless. You'd need to know Terraform as a cloud engineer, not an architect. Linux as a cloud engineer, as an architect. Python as a cloud engineer. Architects don't code or configure anything, so you wouldn't be there. You'd need to understand how to write scripts, Bash shell scripts, PowerShell scripts, etc. So there's a huge thing that goes into these jobs, and it has nothing to do with some certification. I can get you hired for anything. The only time experience ever matters is when somebody comes in and they're not competent, and we give them an answer like we gave Alonso, come back when you have no experience. And I've used that many times. And I've hired people with 0 experience every single day. And I've got people working at 0 experience at AWS, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, you name it, they're working all of there. The point is they're great. So you've got to be great, great, great. Pavan, tell me exactly the career you want, and I can tell you everything you need to learn to get hired. But I'm going to tell you right now, certifications will not get you a job. And here's why. They teach the name of a service and how to configure that service, and that's not what an engineer does. And they teach you silliness. For example, they'll teach you to secure your system with AWS WAF. The only thing I would secure with AWS WAF is my cat Cindy's website, because it's not adaptive. It's not a next generation firewall. In the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional and the AWS Advanced Networking, they'll tell you to use CloudFront as your content delivery network. But Amazon doesn't use CloudFront as their content delivery network. They use Fastly, they use Akamai and CloudFront, because a single content delivery network is a single point of failure. So Pravan, you need competency, competency, competency. And none of that's going to come from certifications. So tell me the job you want, and I can tell you what you need to get hired. But certifications will never be more than a few % of what it takes.
All right. So our next question, if you had to select 5 skills for an enterprise architect, what would they be?
Nice question.
So business acumen, number 1. An enterprise architect is 80% business, 20%. And if you don't understand business, you're not an enterprise architect. Leadership skills, because you're going to have to build teams of people and they're going to have to work together. Now, as an enterprise architect, you need to master stakeholder management, because you're going to have to manage the expectations of the CEO, the CIO, the CFO, the CTO, the VP of sales at your organization, potentially the CEO in your organization. Like in the architectures I'd work on as an enterprise architect, it was visible to the CEO in one of the largest tech companies in the world. And then you're going to have to manage the expectations of the managers of the people that are working for you. So that's 3 of them. Design is the only tech piece. How do you integrate the things? And Eugenia, you're never going to design it all yourself. You're going to be calling different vendors and asking them different solutions. You're going to be building teams across industries. So there's that. And I would probably say that soft skills are the last one. This is a finesse job. Actually, I'm going to add one more to them. This is a finesse job, and you can't be offending people that you need. So there's soft skills. But Eugenia, if I had to pick the biggest one of all architects, it's your communication skills. And here's the reason why. No one hands you a piece of paper and says, build this for me, ever. You got to go interview the customer, find their business problems, their pain points, the things and their challenges are. And if you get that wrong, by the way, you can't do anything. So the ability to gather the right requirements and then translate those requirements from a CEO that says, I need to improve my employee productivity. I need to increase our revenue by 0.3%, and translate that into something that the engineers, it's communication skills. So I gave you 6, but I left the best for last.
Okay, so Lemon asks, AWS has 200 plus services. Azure has 200 plus services. Are there core tech cloud architects need to know? Hold on.
I understand what he's asking.
Yeah, I get it too.
Okay. I see what they're asking. Okay. I'll let y'all take this. That hurts.
Lemon, you don't need to know each and every crazy service.
No.
You need to understand architecture. So let's say you wanted to build a house, right? Because architecture is about designing the blueprint. You don't need to know everything that's Home Depot sells, that the hardware store sells, that Lowe's sells. You need to know what you need. I need a brick. And where you buy that brick for a store just doesn't matter. And here's the thing, you're never going to design this by yourself, ever. So here's what I'm going to do, Lemon. And it's a great question, Lemon, and I hope your job at BBC is going really well for you. But here's the thing. You know, I'm going to meet with my customer, and I'm going to need some security things. So I'm going to find some cloud security people. I'm going to need some IM, so I'm going to find the IM people that are good at it. I'm going to need the big data people, so I'm going to find the big data people. I'm going to find the Kubernetes experts for my Kubernetes microservices kind of stuff. I'm going to find an application architect for re-architecting applications. I need to be able to coordinate them. Lemon, you got to remember, as an architect, you are not focused on technology. You are focusing on improving the business. Engineers focus on the technology. Architects focus on business performance, digital transformation. So no. And here's the thing. That stuff is Googleable. Here's what's not Googleable. How do you solve a business's problems with technology? You can't Google business acumen. You can't Google leadership skills. You can't Google design. And here's the thing, Lemon. I, every single time, will always design an architecture with the technology, just like every architect does in the world. Okay, I need this many virtual machines. Now, I decided to go to the Azure store. They call it an Azure virtual machine. I go to the Oracle store. They call it an Oracle virtual machine. I go to Google. They call it a compute engine. And I go to AWS, and they call it EC2. And a good architect thinks in terms of technology, explains the technology, and then figures what services do this. So, Lemon, focus on the transformation, not the engineering. Alonso, you want to add to that a little bit?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think about, because I went through the whole process of looking through AWS, and you think about all the services that they have. Sometimes they got the same service, but they rebranded. Sometimes they add just a small facet. They put an accent over the same word, tomato, and then it's a whole new service. Or it's an incremental shift here and there that really doesn't, personally, in my humble opinion, add a lot of value to the overall pricing structure that they want to incorporate within the architecture. So learn the fundamentals. That's what we teach here. They learn. And then on top of that, when it comes to the exams, Laman, if you remember those exams, they rarely, if ever, talk about BGP, which is, you can't do anything without BGP when it comes to cloud architecture. So don't focus so much on their services, focus on the skill set of becoming a cloud architect.
Yeah. Great question, Laman.
All right. So our next question, can a solution architect job be done remotely?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Emmanuel, just to the point, especially it showcased a lot. There were a lot of people before pre-COVID who did a lot of traveling, handshaking, meeting the clients personally. They needed that physical presence to understand that the company was providing capable, intelligent, solution providing individuals who represented the company well. So they were there. They were flying all over the country. Uh, uh, I know for a fact Mike racked up about 100K worth of miles. He's the flight man. So he did it a lot. But when COVID hit, people had to adjust. They had to pivot. They had to continue with business operations even during the pandemic. So Zoom and a lot of those virtual options were there. So to your point, there are going to be times where you may have to travel, but there are options where the work can be done remotely. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of this is done remotely. So in 2001, I became a completely remote architect. Now, here's the thing. You still have to interact with your clients, meet with your clients. So in 1 year, I did 200,000 miles on Continental and 100,000 miles on American Airlines as an architect in those days. And then Cisco came up with something called telepresence, which was ultra high definition video conferencing. And then I only had to travel like 75 to 100,000 miles a year. It was really great. And now today's day, people travel a lot less, but you can be remote, but you're going to have to interface with your customers. You're going to have to meet with your customers, build relationships, do some schmoozing, take some people out to dinner, play golf with your clients. Yes, I took golf lessons to be an architect because it was enhancing my architect career. Now, we don't configure the tech, but yes, I did have to learn how to play golf. So and entertain clients, that's part of the job. So yes, you can do it remotely, absolutely. But if you're not in a major city, just know you're going to be doing some traveling. If you're in a major city like New York or London, chances are you can work in your city most of the time and visit your satellite sites occasionally. But if you're really remote, like when I worked in Greece, from my house in Greece, my family's home in Greece, I was going to London one day, I was going to Dubai the next day, those kind of things.
All right. So our next question, what's the roadmap to solution architect, and what's the difference between solution architect and cloud architect? So I want to take a shot at this one. So so if we're talking about a career roadmap for a solution architect, the career roadmap is start as a solution architect. Now, if we're talking about a training roadmap for a solution architect, you can join our webinar tomorrow, and we'll talk all about that. But I'll let Mike give a short description about the training roadmap for the solution architect. But career roadmap, your start is the solution architect. As far as what's the difference between a solution architect and a cloud architect, this is always my favorite one to answer. That's why I always jump at it, because it's the one I can answer. That's the business guy. So the solution architect is the equivalent of knowing how to drive a single car, knowing how to drive only a Mercedes, and having no idea how to drive a Ford or how to drive a Toyota or a Honda or a Volkswagen. A solution architect doesn't know that a steering wheel is a steering wheel is a steering wheel is a steering wheel. They know that a steering wheel is a round thing that turns the car for a Mercedes so that the Mercedes can make a turn. They don't realize, or they're not aware, that the round thing is also the same round thing and does the same thing in all these other cars. So a solution architect knows only Mercedes. So when they're given a Ford, they don't know what to do. They have to learn it all over again. When they're given a Toyota, they have to learn it all over again. They have to figure it all out. A cloud architect knows how to drive, period. They know how to drive a Ford. They know how to drive a Toyota. They know how to drive a Mercedes. This may seem like common sense to everybody because everybody learns how to drive. Everybody learns how to drive. They don't learn how to drive a single car. So it's crazy to think, oh, I should only learn only one cloud because that's all I'll ever need to know. It's a crazy approach because the same amount of time and effort. And I'm sorry for using the word crazy, but it's a wild approach. It's an unusual, unorthodox, weird. nonsensical approach, because the same time, energy, and effort and money that you're going to put into learning this one cloud, you can put into learning every cloud and be able to work anywhere, anytime, on anything.
Yes.
And make yourself more marketable and more employable if you learn to become a cloud architect versus a solution architect. Now, a cloud architect can be a solution architect because a cloud architect knows the cloud and can apply that knowledge of the cloud to any individual vendor's solution. They can apply their cloud knowledge to AWS. They can apply their cloud knowledge to Google. They can apply their cloud knowledge to OpenStack, AWS. A solution architect can apply their knowledge to AWS if that's the solution that they know. They can't apply their knowledge easily, readily, and in a timely manner to Azure because all they know is AWS. In theory, they could eventually apply it to Azure after they've learned everything again. But so a cloud architect can be a solution architect, but a solution architect cannot be a cloud architect. So, Mike, if you want to address that, and
so thanks for doing that, Chris. So cloud computing, a solution architect is a dead career and a waste of your career, and I'm going to tell you why right now. 81% of customers use more than one cloud, which means if you're a solution architect, you're not employable by 81% of the businesses that exist out there. Here's some other news. The U.S. government just allocated $9 billion. $9 billion, I'm going to say it again, for a multi-cloud architecture. So if you only know one cloud, guess what? You're unemployable and you can't take advantage of those jobs that are going to come with this $9 billion. So solution architect, I only know one thing. Cloud architect, I know it all. Now, I'll give you some other good reasons. Some people have it in their mind that they're going to go study for a career, and then the only place that can hire them as a solution architect is AWS. What happens when AWS does a layoff? What about all those other wonderful companies? Now, what if I told you that about 15 years ago, or was it 10 years ago, this is a long time ago, Goldman Sachs' average bonus that they gave to their average employee was $600,000 a year? How many cloud architects do you think Goldman Sachs has? We have a tremendous number of students working at JP Morgan Chase Bank. And guess what? If they only know one cloud, they're not employable. You think Best Buy is going to use a single cloud, or Target would be using a single cloud long term? Or any global retailer? No. How about an airline? How about a hospital? When the single cloud goes down, people die because the doctors can't care for their patients. How about an emergency medical services system? Or a big bank? They can't use a single cloud. When a single cloud goes down due to a network failure, a control plane failure, or a hacking event, they're out of business. And banks can be $1 million a minute that's lost. So they can't deal with solution architects either. They need cloud architects. So the difference between a cloud architect and a solution architect is knowing one cloud versus knowing all. Now, the roadmap is get trained to be a solution architect. Same roadmap to become a doctor. You go to medical school. Same roadmap to be a pilot. Pilots don't learn how to school by being auto mechanics, flight attendants, and then pilots. They learn how to fly a plane. None of the roadmap is this. Now, if you want to know what to learn, guess what? We're going to have a really great webinar tomorrow and tell you everything from step one, from the alpha to the omega, A to Z, whichever you want to call it, how you want to learn it, but the beginning to the end. I do alpha to omega because I'm Greek, and that's the alpha, beta, or alphabet I think of, but the point is whatever you want. But the roadmap is this is your first job. You start your job by getting the right training for the job. Doctors don't go to school to become nurses to be doctors. They go to medical school instead of architects, and that's why our architect's first job is an architect.
All right. So let's see. Next question. I have 16 years of experience in data integrations using Unix, Hadoop, Teradata, and currently acquiring AWS Azure. What are main topics I need to concentrate to become cloud architect 1 year down the line?
Okay, KVS, you just talked about a bunch of tech. Guess what? It's just tech. Here's what architects do. They focus on digital transformation. How do I make that business more profitable through tech? So your tech background is helpful, but you got to remember it's what we do is nothing related to that, touching that stuff. So it will be helpful, and I'll tell you where. The first thing that you need to learn is system design. And what does system design mean? Network and data center. block storage, file storage, object storage, servers, server virtualization, containers, container orchestration, databases, next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, routers, switches, BGP, OSPF, IP subnetting, supernetting, all that. That's your tech stuff. Those are your tech tools. But here's the thing. You got to remember, this is not a hands-on job. This is a digital transformation job. So the main topics that you need to learn are sales, elite communication skills, how to speak to executives, how to relate to executives, CXO relevancy, how to lead large teams, how to build a business case to show the customer that by buying your stuff, the investment in your tech is more important than investment in something else. People that come from an engineering background think about cost. They're all worried about cost. How do I save a buck? KVS, I'm going to give you two options to understand the difference between a finance professional and a cloud architect versus an accountant or a cost side of engineering. I can give you two options. You can pay me $1 million and I'll make you get $10 million in return. Or, in this hypothetical situation, you could pay me $500 and get nothing. Which is a better investment? The one that gives you money. The $500 that does nothing is a waste of your money. And you need to be able to show your customers that by investing in your solution, guess what? You're going to impact their business. So it's not like accounting, it's like finance. You're going to need to learn finance, how to read a balance sheet, how to read a financial statement, how to build a business case, how to create a return on investment capital model, how to present on conferences, how to write thought leadership papers and white papers and those kind of things. Those are the things, and that's what we teach in our architecture program. And of course, how to design and all the tech elements of design. But you got a great background and, big data. Guess what? You may be able to look at that Hadoop and Teradata and say, hey, I've got a lot of knowledge on how to use these big data tools to help companies make better guesses or better inferences, to make better recommendations to enhance their business performance. So whatever you have is good. Life is cumulative and that experience is good, but it's a totally different set of skills. I don't think you can easily get that in a year of training with the right resources. But don't focus on certifications. Don't focus on master's degree in engineering. I mean, train with us and you'll get it, or get an MBA. But it's business. This is a business job, not a tech job.
Good follow-up to that is Linux essential and cloud architect.
I know you've asked a lot of these tech questions before, and I'm thrilled you're here. We don't touch the technology. I'll say it again. We don't touch the technology. When I was an engineer back in 2000, the last time I touched the command line or Linux or anything other than as a hobby, 2001. Architects don't touch the technology. And, you can hear it from me again and again. And I'll tell you what the CIOs say. So here's the great news. Because so many people couldn't become architects because they're focused on learning hands-on technology and wondered why. And wonder why people were saying with experience versus not the right skill sets. They asked the CIO. So I'll give you a little example in CXO relevancy. CEO, how do I make the business grow? How do I make more money? Okay. CIO, how do I make the business more profitable through the use of technology? Who runs the people? Who hires you as a cloud architect? The CIO. When asked, what do you want in a cloud architect? Here's what they said. Someone that can lead the cultural change for cloud adoption. Someone that can develop and coordinate a cloud architecture. Someone that can develop a cloud strategy and coordinate the adoption process. Someone that can find talent with the necessary skills. Assess the application software and hardware. Create a cloud broker team. Establish best practices for cloud across the company. Selecting cloud providers and vetting third-party services. Overseeing governance and mitigating risk. Working with IT security people to monitor privacy and develop incident response procedures. Manage budgets and estimate costs. And operate at scale. I'll go back to the Google one that I shared with you. And let's look at what they want you to do. This is a real architect job. Google actually knows what an architect is, as opposed to the cut and paste job description. Here's what they're asking for. Chris, you want to share that? The Google one? Build relationships as a trusted advisor. Understand the customer background, project requirements. Create comprehensive roadmap. Collaborate with colleagues. Create methods and architectural references. It's not a hands-on job. Now, what you do need to know how the Linux kernel operates, meaning like there's a Linux kernel and there's some shared memory spaces and there's a place where the device drivers go. So you understand conceptually how Linux works, but you don't configure Linux. We don't configure anything. There's no Python. There's no Linux. There's no coding. There's no configuring. There's no Terraform. None of it for an architect.
All right. Let's see. Follow-up question. I have Cisco CCNA RNS, and I'm currently working on CCNP Enterprise. I want to get into cloud. Which route should I follow in cloud that will require the Cisco skills? Please help me.
Kundi, we don't know what kind of job you want. And if we don't know what kind of job you want, I can't advise you, because an airplane pilot has a different job than a doctor, for example. And you could have a network engineer in the cloud, you could have a security engineer in the cloud, you could have an architect in the cloud, you could have a DevOps engineer in the cloud, you could have you can have hundreds of different jobs. So you got to tell me which job you want, and then I can guide you. Because otherwise, it's like, which airplane should I take at the airport? And I don't know. You want to go to New Delhi? Great. You want to go to Bangalore? Great. You want to go to London? Great. You want to go to Boston? You want to go to Cape Town? Great. You want to go? So I need to know where you want to go. Tell me where you want to go, and then I can help you.
All right. So I'll tackle this one. Francis asked, where do we get the best labs for AWS? So since we don't know what your role is or what you want to do, I would just go straight to AWS. If you want the best of something, just go straight to the source. If you want the best Cisco training, go to get your stuff from Cisco. If you want the best AWS, go to AWS. They've got free workshops, free lab demos, free all kinds of free resources out there. I know there's other providers out there that put a lot of time and effort into it, but my assumption is that they're probably just replicating what AWS has already put out there. Yeah. I would go to the source. That's my recommendation. Mike?
Yeah, AWS is the best source for labs. But realistically, Francis, before you start doing labs, you need to know what job you want. Because if you do 1 million labs on AWS and want to be an architect, it's going to be meaningless to you. Because we design, present, and sell. And if you want to be a DevOps engineer, there are different labs than if you want to be a cloud admin. And there are going to be different labs than a cloud engineer. So the key is you got to know your career first before you do labs, because otherwise you'll just be wasting your time.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I shared a link to the video about this. What's the difference between enterprise architect and solution architect, cloud architect? I shared a link to our video for that, Mike, so you can get.
And that's great. So I'll give you the 60-second answer. Enterprise architect, 80+% business, 20% technology, highest paid of the architects. And that's where I spent most of my life. Solution architect, you only know one cloud. It's the lowest position you could possibly have, and it's the one with the least job opportunities. Single something. Solution architect at Cisco just does Cisco stuff. Cloud architect is you know all the clouds, and you know how to put all the pieces together. And it's going to be your highest paying option, working with pure cloud things. 50 to 80% tech business. I'm sorry, 50 to 80% tech, and 20 to 50% business. Most of my cloud architects that are out there, they're like, Mike, I don't do anything with tech. I just go to dinners and talk to people and get requirements and advise. But there's still some tech going in there, so that's your main difference.
All right. So happy holidays, everyone. What experience does one need to go from regular cloud architect to a business or enterprise architect?
Experience.
Okay, well, here's the thing, up and up. I know people that have gotten business architect jobs fresh out of an MBA program, and they work at companies like Accenture, McKinsey, and things like that. That's a business architect, and I've worked as a business architect. It's all about business acumen. All. Now, to go from a cloud architect to an enterprise architect, it's really about developing your business acumen and leadership skills and sales skills. MBAs are really good for this. One thing I'll tell you is, like, don't think about getting like master's degrees in cloud computing or master's degrees in engineering or any of these things if you want any of the bigger jobs. Because here's the thing. They don't teach you anything related to what you need to know to do in these jobs. They focus on hands-on, low-level engineering skills, and they don't teach the things that are required for all these jobs. So to go from a regular cloud architect to a business architect, get an MBA. Because you almost exclusively these business architect jobs, you have to have an MBA. Get an enterprise architect job. Well, we've got this really great how to make more money in tech program coming out, which will definitely teach you how to do that, coming out real soon. But also our elite cloud architect program that we're going to be releasing very, very soon. That is also going to teach the skills of cloud architecture and enterprise architecture and the same things with all those elite business skills. So those would be the ways that I would recommend it. Great question there, Up and Up. And you always ask the most pointed and intelligent questions when you come. Welcome, Up and Up, to see you here.
All right. So it looks like we've only got a couple of questions left. So if you've got any questions, make sure to put them in the chat box so that we can answer them. And let's get to the next one. But yeah, make sure to get the questions in while we're still here. We're going a little bit longer than we normally do, so that we can help you out. Let's see what our next question is. Lady T, once hired, do we still have all access to this community? Yes. The only thing that will eventually run out is your 1 year access to the live classes, but we will have a option for you to resubscribe to the live classes for a nominal fee. So, but as far as the Slack community, the course contents, and all of that stuff, once you're hired, you still have access to all of that stuff. We encourage you to keep up with the content and keep taking part in the community for sure.
We sure do, Lady T.
Francis, follow up the one that was asking about the best place for the labs. Hi, I want to do a DevOps in the cloud. What track should I follow?
I'm going to give you a little guidance here, but at the same time, it's going to be topical, and I'm going to tell you this is not my area of expertise. But what I will tell you is this following. You must be a good software developer long before you can be a DevOps engineer. So first, you need to be a great software developer. Next, you need to learn the DevOps tools off of the cloud. Jenkins, Spinnaker, and all these other kind of things. And there's many of them. Kubernetes, Terraform. And then you learn the cloud DevOps tools. But I am not a DevOps engineer, and that'll give you a percentage of what you need to know. But what I would do is I would find someone that's a principal DevOps engineer or someone that's a director of DevOps engineering and reach out to them and say, what do you need? Now, what I would never do is an associate DevOps engineer or a regular DevOps engineer, because a lot of them, an associate architect or engineer basically is someone that's still in training. And if they can't get out of that training position in a year or so, they're going to be fired. So they don't even know how they got there, and they don't know how to help you be successful. But when you're dealing, the principal people or above the seniors, they know exactly what it takes to be successful, and they can help you be successful. The directors and VPs that hire them also know those elite skills, and they can guide you. So that's who I would go for. It's not my area of expertise. But I do know that the following things that I told you are definitely true.
KVS says, thank you, Mike. Do you suggest to go with an MBA?
Well, KVS, the cheapest thing for you to do to become an architect from your big, deep tech background would be to take our program. But if you don't want to take our program, I strongly suggest you get an MBA. Now, Up and Up asked, and she said business architect. You can't get a business architect job for the most part without an MBA. And with the enterprise architect jobs, you either need elite business skills, which is why we've created a How to Get More Money in Tech program, or get an MBA. But even if you get an MBA, you're still going to need to take some of that extra training. So post MBA, I still had probably close to $100,000 of leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, and CXO relevancy training. But an MBA is definitely a good thing to do. But I don't advise getting any master's degrees in anything in technology, though. And we get people with master's degrees in cloud computing all the time, and we have to completely retrain them to get them hired as architects, for example.
All right.
And if you have a master's degree, great. Focus on the business, not the tech. Because architects focus on business, not tech.
All right. Let's see. Rocket Files. Not a habitual talkative person and of highly reserved nature. Can I become an architect or just good with an engineer role?
Well, I'll tell you a secret, which my friend Alvin released. Alvin's a VP over at NVIDIA. I'm an introvert, and I'm not naturally a talkative person either. I used to be scared and shy, but I got training for it. Now that I got training for it, I'm there. So rocket flies, you got to do what you love. If somebody wants to be a Navy SEAL, they go to Buds. And trust me, they are miserable the whole time they're there. There's something called Hell Week where they basically work out 24 hours a day, well, 23 hours a day for 7 days straight. They're tortured in cold water. They're tortured by crawling around in the sand. They're tortured by running 20 miles a day. They're tortured by rowing and swimming miles and miles a day, every single day. And guess what? When they get through, they're strong and they can do anything they want. So rocket flies, you can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. Look, I used to practice internal medicine. And I said I wanted to be a network engineer. Everybody told me I was crazy. 6 months later, I was a network engineer at the world's largest ISP. 6 months after that, I was a lead architect at the world's largest ISP, and then a lead architect on Wall Street designing the world's largest market maker. So the point is you can do anything. All of you can do anything. So the key is, what do you want? Build the plan. That's why we help our people build the plan. And execute on that plan until you win. And win, win, win. Got any thoughts there, Alonso?
I couldn't agree more. Is focus on. I mean, you know what? Let's focus on. Let's go back to you saying you're not a habitual talkative person, but when you start getting into what you love to do, it's not the talking. It's going to be probably the reverse of how to stop talking in the right moments, because it's something that you enjoy. It's something that you like to communicate. So becoming an architect, it's all, like you said, Mike illustrated it well. It's all about what you love to do. Focus on that, make that initial decision, and work from there. So don't focus on the money, but focus on the happiness that that role brings about, and then you'll be able to definitely determine what's the best path for you.
All right. How do you concentrate career path in cloud security and focus on the associated labs?
You're going to have to tell us what you mean by cloud security. Do you want to be breaking into systems as an offensive security engineer? Do you want to be a defensive security engineer, keeping systems there, systems locked down and prevent the hackers from coming in? Do you want to design the security?
Yeah.
So you need to know what kind of security you want, because there's multiple kinds of security, and an architect needs to do completely different things than an engineer, and a defensive engineer needs different labs than an offensive engineer. So we need to know a little more about your desired career. And then we'll happily answer.
Up and Up says, Mike, can you be cloud native and use multiple clouds at the same time?
Well, this is a career topic, but Up and Up, I'll give you a brief answer. As long as you don't use things that are proprietary in nature, like Elastic Compute Cloud and Fargate, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you use Kubernetes, manage your Kubernetes clusters across clouds by not using any managed service, and stick your containers in virtual machines, you've got networking connectivity, of course you can. The key of being multi-cloud or not is to avoid proprietary services. Pretty much everything they teach in the certification, like DynamoDB, Amazon Aurora, WAF, all this other stuff, in my mind, it's ripe for the trash. Not that they're bad services, but they prohibit multi-cloud. And when you prohibit multi-cloud and use proprietary services, and not things that are open standards, you stop innovation. So sure, like the way we teach our students in class how to use the cloud properly and how to not use any proprietary anything, guess what? That's the secret to multi-cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Again, part of the reason certifications are so irrelevant for architects.
And another thing, Up and Up, is that, say for instance, you're trying to purchase a car and you don't know what you really want, but you want that solution, but that salesperson always leads you to a tier of car that you're really not interested in. That's the only solution that he's pointing. So you get where I'm going from this. If you get this feeling that they're trying to herd you to something that you might not want, it provides distrust within that relationship, from client to business, and you could lose that opportunity. So you have to make sure that you are offered and you're offering a wide array of solutions that make sense to the customer, not something specific based on that CSP or cloud service provider.
All right. I get anxious talking too much, man. Need some meds. Yeah, we can't. We can't answer that. Sorry, I thought it was going to be a different question.
Yeah,
So
we can't do that.
yeah, sorry, I thought it was going to be a speaking in public question. All right, so I don't have any more questions. If anybody's got any last questions, make sure to put them in the chat box here, so that we can address them. But while we wait for questions, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of our holiday sale. We've got 30% off of our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Currently, regular price is $9.99. With the discount, it will be $6.99. And this will be the lowest that this program will ever be again. And next year, we will have to have a price increase on the program. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that this is the lowest price that this program will be ever again. So make sure to take advantage of that discount. And it's going to be, unfortunately, we've not had a price increase since we've launched the program. So it is going to be quite a significant increase. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. So take advantage of that while it's here. Also, remind everybody about our webinar tomorrow. Free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We'll talk about everything you need to know to become a cloud architect, what hiring managers want, what type of experience matters, and how to deal with HR. Whether you want to do this on your own or with us, we give you a breakdown of all the things that you need to know. So make sure you register for that. Any last words, Mike and Alonso?
Well, it's always good to be here. It's good to see you, gentlemen. We've had a great Christmas. I'm excited about what the future holds. I'm glad that we looked over our shoulders and seen a lot of great things happening with our students and within our community, as well as on the team. As always, we're always here to answer your questions, and we are definitely looking forward to anything that you throw our way so that we can help you get your best cloud career ever. What about you, Mike?
I want you to know that you can all do anything you want, 100% of everything you want. So many people are afraid, and the fear they have is what holds them back. Don't be afraid. You can do everything. And trust me, I know from experience. When I was practicing internal medicine and people said to me, you can't become a network engineer. You need to become a help desk person, then a net admin, and then 10 years from now, you can become a network engineer. I laughed at them. And they said I was crazy. I said, why would I train for other people's jobs? If I train for other people's jobs, guess what? I won't be able to do my job. And I went on my first interview, and I got offered to be a network engineer, and they gave me a senior network engineer position, which was better than the one I've even asked for. In fact, I can't remember an interview that I ever went on in my life where I didn't get a job offer. And that's part of the secret to me getting so many people hired is our incredible interview training. And whether it's our upcoming, real elite interview program or what's taught in our course, that's the key, as being great at what you can, but you can all do it. I was injured in an accident, and 13 physicians told me I could never walk again. Now, I don't walk far, let me tell you, but I do get up and down the stairs in my house and walk back and forth 100 feet from my house periodically throughout the day just to do it because I can. And the point is, I was told I'd never be able to sit in a chair and run a company. And guess what? I'm here with you every single day to try and help you, guiding students, getting students hired almost every day of the week. So the point is you can do what you want. Never let fear hold you back. The best gift you can give your family or the best New Year's resolution is to better yourself. Here's the thing. When you earn more and you're happy in your job, you can send you can take care of your spouse, give them anything they want. If you've got children, you can take care of your children, send them to the best schools that they want. If you've got a family member in need and you want to send money back home like we had to do because we're from an immigrant family, you can do that. And give yourself a career that you like. Don't have a job that you hate. If you don't like your job, like I didn't like my old job, get a new job in a new career, but just be courageous. Fear is the enemy of winning. I'm telling you right now. And courage is not the absence of fear. Look, we're all afraid. Courage is what you do in spite of the fear. So be courageous. Build the career of your dreams. Do something you love. Train with us. Get an MBA. I don't really care. I'd love you to train with us, but all I care is that you build the career of your dreams. I want you to be happy like me. Chris is happy. Alonso is happy. I'm happy. Every time I send a message that a student texted me that they got cloud hired, it's a party for us. Do what you love. I do what I love, and that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I'd be taking one of these $800,000 jobs. So I get offers for them all the time, but it's not me. I love what I do. I love getting people hired. So do what you love and be happy, and you'll never work a day in your life. Look forward to seeing you all in the webinar tomorrow. And please come back. I want to do anything I can to build your best career.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow on our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Have a great day. If we don't see you tomorrow, Happy New Year. And but make sure you take advantage of this discount while it's here to change your life forever. So have a good day.
Take care, everyone.
Everybody.